Tell us a little bit about you and what motivated you to do this.
You know, I've had to think about it because it was easy in the sense that I didn't belabor it, decision to make. My father was I was a product of the military. My father survived the bombing of Pearl Harbor, went on to be a career military officer, so I grew up, he was in the Air Force, so I grew up on bases across this country, lived in post-war Germany, and actually went to high school in Japan. So I saw the example of service to one's country, just in the ordinary course of thing. It wasn't anything anybody belabored, it's just what my parents did. And we were traveling to Japan, he was stationed in Japan in the summer of 1960, and we were on a ship, because in those days you didn't use airplanes the way we do today. And I was up late with my grandmother, who was coming to live with us, and I heard John Kennedy's acceptance speech over the loudspeaker. And there was something about that speech that has forever remained with me. But I think really he was quite an example of the sort of excitement in politics, the opportunity in politics to make a difference. And for those of us who grew up in disadvantaged households, we were Republicans, I do believe that his presidency sort of changed many of us towards the Democratic Party. So you have those two examples. My first campaign ever was for Eugene McCarthy. I was a senior in college. I'd come to Massachusetts to go to college. We had the war in Vietnam, and I went to New Hampshire to help with his campaign. I was invited to be one of 4 other young people to travel with him all over the state. And I can recall going to early morning meetings, and in particular one that was like a local chamber of commerce, maybe in Nashville, Manchester, something like that, and seeing him talk with great passion and purpose about the need to bring an end to the war in Vietnam. So you take all of those things, and I've always felt there was no better way to spend one's life than in public service, and in particular in politics. When I met my husband, who had already decided he wanted to come back and run for the city council.
Where did you meet Paul?
I met Paul in Washington one summer. He was interning for then Congressman Brad Morse. I was down there that summer. My parents were my father had been stationed at the Pentagon, so they were living in northern Virginia. And I had a party in an apartment. I was with some friends. We took a summer apartment.
College stuff.
I know. I invited a friend of mine from college was also interning in Brad Morse's office. So she told Paul about the party, because this was sort of word of mouth party. He came to it, we met, and I always say it's the only party he ever willingly went to in his life, because he was not a party fella. We met and we married a couple of years later. But so when I met Paul and he was so committed to running for office, I could imagine no better way to spend one's life. And there's nothing in all those years of his being elected, even his campaign for the presidency, though it was not successful, it certainly did help change the discussion in this country. So there's nothing that I've always still to this day feel is very important. So you fast forward, for the past 10 years I've been an administrator at Middlesex Community College. I'm now a dean there. I'm a lawyer by training. Opened the first all-women's law practice in Lowell. Went to law school sort of when I was a little older. Went on to help in the presidential campaign, and then went into college administration.
You were going to say midlife, but you...
I steered away from that, yeah.
You're only midlife now.
Yeah. So, I've seen firsthand the opportunity provided by access to higher education, how important it is to be competitive in a global economy. A community college is very embedded and engaged in its community as well. It makes tremendous contributions has made them to the city and all the towns that it serves. I'm on the board of a small nonprofit health plan, Fallon. It's the 4th largest in the state, always rated as one of the top, most recently as the 12th best in the country. I've been on the Arena Commission, which oversaw the construction of the ballpark and arena. I was a library trustee at Lowell's Library for many, many years. And so you just see, and committed always to making a difference at every level. And when this opened up, I felt it was important to run. It's for many, many reasons. The issues are clearly very compelling. And I think I have a range of experiences that allows me to represent this district quite well. So, as I run, I say it's time to change the tone of politics in Washington. Too often we see each side carve out a position and rather than finding a way forward, using it as an excuse to walk away from solving a problem. And it's also a time to change the direction of our country. It's time to bring our war in Iraq to an end, bring our troops home and take care of them once they're here. I've made it a point in this campaign to visit with veterans groups. I did a 24-hour announcement tour, so I stopped at Lowell's Veterans Clinic, and I met veterans of World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the First Gulf War. And that tells us that war, for those who serve in our behalf, is a life-changing event from which some never recover. And also I visited Walter Reed. I happened to be in Washington, so I managed to go visit Walter Reed, where I met with some of those returning from their service in Iraq with very, very serious injuries. Very serious injuries. A young man, I went into the physical therapy unit, and it was filled with young people who've lost at least a limb. And a young man walked by me. He was about 6'2", I'd say in his early 20s. He had no legs. He was on 2 prosthetic devices that were serving him remarkably well. And you sort of have this host of experiences. Like I marveled at him. His youthful determination not to let this, deter him. And yet, so clearly, his life is forever changed. And fortunately, we have the technology that'll allow him to go forward. But there are so many there who have other kinds of injuries from which the recovery and the process is not so clear. So as a country, I'm committed, and we have to understand this is a long-term thing. This, once this war is at an end, we'll be caring for these young people for now and into many years to come.